Hello everyone and welcome back to Best of the Month, the, surprisingly, monthly board game show where a range of creators get together to talk about what they've enjoyed most in the past month. It doesn't need to be a brand new game, maybe it's just new to them, maybe it's been on their shelf for a while and they've finally got it back to the table and loved it. Well, let's check out what some creators have really enjoyed this month.
Hi, this is Ambi from Board Game Blitz, and my best of the month for August was Letters from Whitechapel, which I hadn't played in a long time, but the last time I made a top 100 list, it was like my second or third favorite game. It definitely made my top 5. So I'm glad I still like it because I got to play it again recently. Letters from Whitechapel is a 1 versus many hidden movement game themed around Jack the Ripper. So one player plays as Jack the Ripper and is moving around the streets, which are like different numbered locations on the big board map. And then the other players are the police investigators who are trying to catch him. Once they catch Jack the Ripper, then the game's over. But each round there are 4 of them. Jack the Ripper will start at the scene of a murder, and then he will be moving and trying to get to his hideout. Meanwhile, the police investigators are moving between the numbers, so they don't actually move on the numbered locations, but on little squares that are like between them. So they have different like movement tracks than Jack. But they're like taking note of how many turns he's moved, and then they're trying to go and investigate spots to see if there are any clues. And if Jack was ever there during that round, he'll leave a clue trail. So as the rounds progress, they kind of get an idea of where Jack the Ripper is trying to get to in his hideout if they kind of see like what their path was. Or they get no clues at all, which is what we were getting the first couple of rounds. It was like we were getting no clues, but then we kind of use that to get process of elimination to be like, okay, he could only have gone this way. And then Jack is just trying to outsmart the police people. So he can try to be sneaky and like backtrack along his steps because we can't tell if he backtracked and like, oh, where is he now? We don't know. So I really like playing games where there's mind games between people like that. And deduction is one of my favorite mechanisms. So hidden movement, it has a lot of deduction in it and there's a lot of mind games between the Jack player and the police investigators. So I really love Letters from Whitechapel. Turns out I've been playing it wrong before. So I'd been playing a rule wrong where it made it easier for the investigators to win. But this time we played it correctly and it was a super close game. But Jack won because we tried to go for the arrest, but then we moved away and let him slip past us and get to his hideout. But that was Letters from Whitechapel, my favorite play of August. Bye!
Hi, I'm Will, and with me as always is the august one herself.
Sarah.
And we are rolling with 2. So here's our picks for our favorite games in August. Sarah, what was yours?
All right, mine is Point City. So I really enjoy engine building and tableau building games. And this one I really like. It has a pretty simple drafting mechanism where you draft adjacent cards. But it's the grid and how it refills that's very interesting and unique. So you have a 4x4 grid of cards, and when the game starts, they're all resources. The cards are double-sided. One side's a resource, the other side is a building. You need resources to build those cards. And here's the interesting thing. When you draft the 2 resources, because that's how you're going to start the game, when you refill, you're going to refill with the opposite side. So it becomes buildings. So you took 2 resources. There's now 2 buildings in the row. When you take a building, then it comes in, the new card comes in as a resource. But of course, at the beginning, you have to build up resources to be able to build those cards. You cannot take a building card until you can actually pay for it right then and there. So we found that as we were playing, the board filled up really quickly with buildings and not that many resources. So it became harder and harder to, okay, I need to find a pair of buildings I can build in one turn to clear this up so more resources can come in. So it was just really, fascinating and engaging to see how that worked.
Yes. For me, the game for August was Mr. Card Game. Now, I'm a huge fan of Kingdom of Loathing, which is what this game is based off of. This is for all intents and purposes, a deck builder. But what's unique about it is the fact that it has some interesting mechanisms that I haven't seen in any deck builder. For example, whenever it's time to defeat a monster, there's not just one way or 2 ways to defeat him. There's 4 ways. And whenever you defeat a monster, it really rewards you. You get meat, which is money. You get experience, which goes in builds up your deck of cards. It turns into a loot. So it's a very rewarding time whenever it comes to beating a monster, and you have to beat a monster every turn. There's no dead turns. Also, when it's time to reshuffle your deck to refill it, the game forces you to upgrade your deck in a couple of different ways. So all those things lead to a very interesting deck building experience. The only sad part is the company kind of folded. They did a terrible job internationally, so it's going to be a really hard game to find.
Yeah, it's unfortunately out of print and they never made any more for it.
Yes. So if you want to learn anything more about these games, we'll cover them on our YouTube channel at
RollingWithTwo on YouTube.
Yes.
Hey boardies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon to bring you best of the month for August 2023. Now this particular game might even make my game of the year, to be honest. This is a party game, it's a social deduction game, it's by Brain Games, and it's called Mimic Octopus, in particular Cringe Edition. Now this is an interesting game to try to explain when you can't see it in person, so please check out my How to Set Up Play and Review video. What this game is all about is there'll be 3 different traits shuffled together and dealt out if you happen to be playing as a 4 as an example, and what you're looking to do is find other people, when you say go, start talking and seeing who else are doing the same thing as you. For example, scratching your eyebrow or something. However, if you do not have, say, scratching your eyebrow, I've got a whole play rate show in a second, what's going to happen is you can mimic them. And what's going to happen is when you're ready, you're going to go 3, 2, 1 and point, and anybody else who thinks on your team, if you identify everybody else, there could be up to 3 of you, then you're going to get a point if there's 3 of you and you all point at each other. The 4th person again could be a mimic, in which case they can try and scratch their eyebrow and see if they get caught, or they can just do whatever they're meant to be doing, which maybe is to be quiet or be confused or whatever it might be. In which case, if they're doing that and they're on their own, they can either put their fist up and say, look, I'm on my own, therefore I get a point, or they can put their fingers up in the air and say, right, I'm the mimic, you're going to point at me. If no one points at them, they don't get a point. But if no one points at them and they put their hand up in the air, they do get a point. So here's this little play area that I mentioned. So like I said, you're either going to be pointing at somebody else if there's somebody else in your team, or 2 people if there's 2 other people in your team. Again, everybody has to be pointing at each other in either case. So 2 of you and you don't point at each other, you don't get a point. However, if you are on your own, you can do this, or if you're on your own but you think someone else is going to guess you, then you get a point, and of course that means they're pointing at you, which means they're not getting a point. That's how the game works. Check out my video, it's a lot simpler to explain than this. But like I said, a fun party game. Everyone's been laughing, huge amount of entertainment, and you can combine other sets, but this one is the best in my opinion. I guess there's a limited variety because there's only 12 different traits, but I've always mixed up the groups and I've never had an issue. But yeah, a lot of fun. That's Mimic Octopus. Now check out the podcast, check out Instagram, there's loads of stuff over there. I know the designers very much enjoy my stuff over there too. Also TikTok, Threads, everything else, Facebook. And of course there'll be another video coming through next month, of course, to do with how to set up playing reviews, to do with best of the month, etc. Like, subscribe, the notification bell and share. Let me know the comments are best on YouTube, and check out descriptions for lots of information as well. But for now, back to the table.
Hi, it's Barb, MeeplePhD, and my favorite play for August 2023 is Mists over Carcassonne. This is a brand new version of Carcassonne that just hit the stores a couple of months ago, at least for us here, and I picked it up as soon as I could. Carcassonne has been overrun by a mist that has ghosts in it, and you are working together in order to, well, get enough points before you lose. But to do that, while you're doing that, you are placing tiles, just like normal Carcassonne, and as you're placing them, you're matching roads to roads and cities to cities, pasture to pasture, and when you place a tile, you can put down one of your meeples, and when the road closes, on both sides, you get to score it, or when the city is completely closed, you get to score it. But at the same time, you are placing these ghosts on the board. Now, many of the tiles have this mist on it, and they depict a number of ghosts. If you are able to place your tile so that it extends another piece of mist that's already on the board, you don't have to place quite as many ghosts. And that's good, because if you run out of ghosts, you lose the game. But if you close up a region with mist, you get to take all of the ghosts out of there. So you're always trying to match up the mist when you can. Legally, a legal placement is to not match the mist. So, if you have mist with pasture against pasture without mist, you can do that, but you are never going to completely close that mist area. There's another way to get ghosts off the board, though, other than closing the mist, and that's to forego scoring. So when you score something, you could instead take some ghosts off the board. That's great, and you have to do it in order to keep ghosts in your pool. But since this is a race to a certain score, you're also slowing down yourself in your scoring. And so there's a lot of balancing going on here. There are several levels in the game. You start with just roads and cities and mist. And then the second level, they introduce in these castles and cemeteries. The castles play just like the monasteries in the original game, but the cemeteries, those are bad. When you place out a ghost anywhere on the board, you also then have to place one on one of your open cemeteries. You can close a cemetery by placing tiles around it, but when you do that, you have to bury one of your meeples. If you like Carcassonne, if you like cooperative games, this might be one to go check out. If you like Carcassonne, but you feel like it's been played out for you, you might also want to check this one out, because for me, this has completely brought this back to the table and made me excited about it again. So that was my favorite play for August. I hope you had a great month of gaming. Go check out my channel if you like astronomy and board games, because I try to connect the two in videos. That's MeeplePhD on YouTube. I'm also on the internet as MeeplePhD on Instagram and X, and I also have my own blog at MeeplePhD.com. We'll see you next month.
There's something about it when a Kickstarter arrives at your door. Whether you like the idea of crowdfunding or not, there's certainly something which makes you invested in a game, and I'll be open and honest, I've been looking forward to the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition arriving for quite a while now, especially as I was in, like, from the looks of things, like the second wave that came to the UK. So when it finally arrived, I was itching to play it, and well, we got it to the table pretty much straight away, after I'd punched a lot of cardboard at least. I went all in and got the terrain pack for the ultimate pimping of a board game that really doesn't need it, but the game is still the Castles of Burgundy that, well, many people love. It's nowhere near beige, and that is probably one of the biggest compliments that I can give the game. The old one just never looked like it could grab your attention. The new one, even with just the acrylic tiles, that grabs attention. It feels good in your hands. The dual layered boards make it so nothing is knocked and nudged. The metal coins are fun to hold and jangle. It's just a really nice production of a really good game. The Castle of Burgundy, if you don't know, is a dice-based game. I don't normally like dice, but there are mitigation options. You've got these workers that allow you to change the value on your dice up or down one. You've also got many ways to use dice. Right, I've rolled a 6. Is that 6 any better than a 1? Well, it kind of matters what the board looks like. A, are there any tiles for me to take at the number 6 place? No? Well, that 6 is pretty bad then. But maybe I want to place something on my board and I need that 6 to do so because the location I need to add this tile has a 6 on it. Well, therefore my 6 is good. Maybe it's a 5 though, so I need to spend my worker to change that 6 to a 5. Ooh, but if I'm doing that, I could buy the mine and have that ready to put on my board next time and just hope I roll and maybe I'll get some more workers. And there's so many good choices on this. And yes, you can feel in certain rounds like, oh, I've been screwed over. I'm just going to have to maybe take some workers or do a lesser option of what I'd really like to do. But everyone over the course of the game, 25 rounds you're going to play in, turns you're going to play in total. It's a lot of dice rolling. So over the course of the game, everyone's going to get some luck, some bad luck, but you've got plenty of choices to make. Maybe your workers are worth plus or minus 2 rather than just 1. Maybe you're getting more workers. Maybe you're scoring for certain types of buildings. You're trying to get as many of them. It's just a really good game, and yeah, I'm definitely influenced by the fact that I spent a lot of money on this and I've been waiting for it to arrive. But it lived up to the hype in terms of it's arrived and it got to the table straight away. It didn't stay on the shelf and we enjoyed it. It's not always the case with every Kickstarter. or every game. But when you can say something's lived up to the hype, certainly when it's been hyped up, well, that couldn't be too bad. That's the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. Can I recommend it? Not really, because it's super expensive. Can I recommend the base game to anyone? Yes, even if it's a bit more beige. Anyway, enough of my face. On with the next creator.
Hello, it's Angie with the Chasing Meeples podcast. Chris is sick, so he can't join me this month, but I'm going to talk to you about my game of the month. After Us. After Us is a post-apocalyptic game. Mankind is gone, but the apes are left, and they're going to rebuild a society using the tech that we left behind. They're going to expand their tribe by working together. They're going to build cells that you're going to be able to gain resources. You're going to be able to gain power or energy. And then you're going to gain bonuses. You're going to be able to invite new apes into your tribe. Got to be careful of those gorillas because they're filled with rage. Because there's a rage track on your player board, and you can spend that rage to thin your deck. So we have a deck builder resource management game, and when you thin your deck, not only are you getting rid of cards that are maybe mucking it up, but you gain bonus points as well. And that's what this game is about. It's a race to 80 points. I also play the solo game, which has a very interesting component of it, that when your opponent ape is going to gain the resources, and when you gain resources, you're going to take them from him. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I would recommend it as a solo game. It's easy to teach. I think just about anybody can jump into it because it's pretty simple, but it's fun. And you can hear more about this game that we'll talk about on our podcast, Chasing Meeples. You can find it on every platform, Apple, Spotify, your favorite podcast player. You'll also find us on Facebook. We have an Etsy store. We have an Instagram. We are on Threads, and we're on X. And if you want to let us know what you think about our podcast, you can contact us at chasingmeeples@yahoo.com. I'm always up for some creative comments. Ollie, thank you for letting me join again this month.
Hi, I'm Josh from the YouTube channel joshyaks, where I mainly talk about unplugged hobbies such as board gaming and books. And my pick of the month for August is going to be K2, which is designed by Adam Kaluza. Specifically, I just recently picked up the Lotzi expansion for K2 and gave it a try for the first time in the month of August. So K2 is just an amazing little game. I would say that there is no other game in existence that I've ever played that has so few rules yet captures the theme that it is trying to capture so wonderfully and so completely. So K2 is essentially a very straightforward card-driven game where you have two climbers and you're playing cards to allow them to either ascend or descend the mountain, and you have a few other cards that allow you to increase your oxygen acclimatization levels, because the whole point of the game is to get as high as possible on the mountain without actually dying. Having one or both of your climbers die in this game is a very real possibility and a big risk, and so managing your acclimatization and those oxygen levels is a key aspect of this game, because the higher you go on the mountain, the more your oxygen levels are going to be depleted. Like I said, it's such a simple game, and yet every single turn of the game is so filled with tension and anxiety, because just as in real mountaineering, tackling the real mountain K2, which, by the way, is the deadliest mountain in existence for mountaineers. It's the second highest mountain in the world, and yet fully 25% of the people that reach the summit of K2 end up dying, which is a much higher mortality rate even than Everest. So the game captures that perfectly with how incredibly tense each turn of the game is. You only have so many climbing points, and you have only so much oxygen to get as high as possible and then get back down to safer altitudes again. And really, it's no wonder that this game is so thematically rich, because the designer, Adam Kaluza, is an actual mountaineer, and he has taken his experience and put it into this game to put us players into these mountain boots and into these terribly treacherous situations. And if you were to get just one expansion for K2, I would recommend Broad Peak, because it adds some interesting elements that make the climbing of the mountain, I think, much more interesting overall. But I'm certainly quite happy with Lhotse. I believe I do have everything for K2 now, and every time I get it to the table, it's just such a fun and exciting, intense experience. Just love the game, even though I'll be happy to never set foot on one of these mountains myself. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Libby, this is Julian, and together we are Boxed Meeples. Of course, you can find us here on YouTube, but also do feel free to follow us on Instagram and all the other social medias as well.
X. What's on X? So today we are talking about the games that stood out for us in August. We played a lot of games, but for me, I really enjoyed the game Suspects. Now I know this is a game that Ollie, you've also enjoyed as well. Now this game is a series of murder mysteries. You're drawing cards to try to solve a riddle. You're trying to find out who done it, you're trying to find out why they done it, and there's lots of other questions you'll be thinking about as you go through this adventure. Now this is we've seen this kind of game several times before. You know, we've seen similar things in the exit games, we've seen similar things in the unlock games, there's been other kind of murder mystery games. But this one I think works really well. Basically you are presented a case with a case notes, and then you're given 2 bits of evidence, which are kind of A4 sheets, and from that you can go wherever you want, you can explore however you want, you can talk to whoever you want. But there's a really clever mechanic in this, because there is a scoring system. Now you have a series of questions you have to answer at the very beginning. Usually it's who killed the person. And the sooner you get to an answer, the better the score you're going to get. So if you find an answer after, say, 15 cards, you'll get 5 points. If you discover it after 30 cards, you'll get 3 points. If you discover it right at the end, you'll get less points. If you get it wrong, you'll get no points. Now you can change your opinion, your answer, as you go through the game, as you reveal more cards, but obviously that will reduce your points. But you do reveal all of the cards as you go through, and you'll get to find out everything there is to find out about the case. And the cases are actually really good. They remind me, this game is a 10+, so I don't expect it to be horrifically gory, but they are incredibly complicated. It reminds me kind of those Sunday afternoon murder mystery shows you often get. In fact, it really reminds me of the Ace Attorney games, where you get almost a kind of slightly silly murder and you have to figure it out. But as you reveal the cards, things kind of fit into place. And what's great about it is certain cards have little tokens on the side, little icons, and when you find something that matches up, you can then reveal another card.
It's sounding like Chronicles of Crime meets the book ones.
Yeah, the Cantaloupe style.
Cantaloupe, that's the one.
And I think it is inspired in the same way of those games by those old kind of detective point-and-click adventure games that used to be very popular. As you play through, it does seems very random, because obviously you can go anywhere you want, and sometimes you have no kind of bearing of what things relate to each other. But eventually it does all kind of slot into place. It's really satisfying when it does. The artwork in this is fantastic. It's really well done.
Definitely your styling.
Yeah. Very detailed drawings. And what I liked about it, it doesn't need an app or anything like that. It's quite self-contained. I actually played through all 3 of these cases on the train solo. It does play to 6 players. I think that'd be awful. I can't imagine gathering around, all looking at a card and then sharing it. There's better games to play if you want that kind of thing. It might work fine for 2. So play through to the very end. And then once you do, you get to open the secret envelope. It's not just a case of here's the answers to the 5 things. It goes in quite a lot of detail about where you would have discovered those things. So say on card 15, it said this, and you're like, oh, I didn't understand that's what it was alluding to. And it's deeply satisfying when you've got it right, but it's equally satisfying when you haven't got it right, because then you start to kind of kick yourself. It's like, oh, it's hiding in plain sight. And that's why it does remind me of those kind of Jonathan Creek kind of mysteries that we used to watch on TV. Because yeah, it does feel like an insignificant detail on one of the cards is actually the key to the whole case, and it all unravels. Very well written and very nuanced. And we follow the adventures of the Claire Harper. This is actually the second, possibly the third Claire Harper game. There's also others in the Suspect series, all follow the same thing. You can replay it, so you don't destroy anything. So you'd obviously know the mystery, but you can hand the game on to someone else. You can even sell it if you want to. But yeah, always nice just here's a copy of this game, have a go. And so nothing's destroyed. It's not like an exit game in that way. And yeah, I'm going to be keen to play more of these because they were just almost like kind of choose your own adventure style games, or just really interesting kind of light and friendly murder mysteries. So I had a surprisingly fun time on the train. Each case lasts an hour.
Perfect for a train ride.
Ideal for a train ride. Really enjoyed it.
For me this month, I mean, obviously we've been playing a lot of Lorcana, but I feel like we started without proper decks because we didn't have the starter decks. We have now got that, and I just want to kind of get into it a bit more, get to grips with the decks and stuff. So it hasn't quite made my game of the month, but it's certainly the thing that we were most excited about this month, like a lot of people out there, and really hoping to kind of dive down into it, and all the sort of combos of cards, all of that will be coming. So maybe we'll see what happens, what we play next month.
I would say not the game of the month this month, next month.
We'll see. But yeah,
really loving it.
Yes, absolutely. Just feel like need a few more plays to kind of, just get the most out of it, I suppose. I think when you start with these things, and particularly when we didn't start with proper decks, then you kind of don't see the beauty of it until you kind of delving into how can you combo the cards, and just a little bit of familiarity will just hike that up even more, I think. I mean, obviously the artwork in it's amazing. But another game that has also amazing artwork, and it's one that we ended up coming back to because we loved its sibling game so much, and it made us want to play it again, is Tidal Blades. Love this universe. I mean, the artwork in this is incredible, and it'd been quite a while since we got this one. I mean, our friend has the fancy long deluxe box with the cute squishy orangey fruits and all those fun bits and bobs, and the nice miniatures people who can go around. I mean, they would look amazing painted.
They would. Yeah.
Very excited to ever get a copy of those and paint those up.
Especially you now know how to paint.
I have just recently learned. That was another fun thing that happened this month. But yeah, in this one you're trying to upgrade to your different skills and go out and fight the monsters on the reef, or complete different missions around. And it was just such a lot of fun. I really love the dials, the way you're, and it's that interesting puzzle, isn't it? Do you kind of try and evenly clock up to try to be able to do everything a little bit better, or do you end up ignoring one or two of the attributes and sort of double downing on something else and seeing if you can sort of drag your way through one element but just kind of dive into another area that's going to hike up your points quick and things. And that did end up being a winning strategy for someone, surprisingly. I think we all kind of weren't sure if that was going to play off, even though the player themselves was like, oh, I don't know if I've made a mistake here. But it did pay off. And yeah, I just trying to work out that puzzle of, you know, am I going to go and fight now? What positions are left for me to do? What do I really need? How am I going to go and get the fruit? But then I really want to do this because that space is open. I really want to do my skill thing because it's going to give me that extra bonus, but is there still a space to do it? Is that going to get me the thing that I need to do something else later down? Really great puzzle of what to do when and how. Is the judge there? Can I get another point for completing?
Someone just stalked the judge when we played it.
Yes.
Like, the judge has gone there, I'll do those then.
Yeah, I'll go here then. Okay.
Let's ignore the monsters on the reef. They don't need to bother them.
I mean, I think that was my downfall. There was a couple of rounds where I hadn't been able to go and contribute to the monsters, and then you end up, you know, basically getting shame for that, don't you? And losing elements for that. So that just kept me a little bit behind. But yeah, beautiful world, beautiful characters, nice puzzle.
It's going to be exciting when the next one comes out.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Because the world is just great, and we've seen that both in Banner Festival and Heroes of the Reef.
Yeah,
so it's really great to be a part of that.
And I love how these are. I mean, they're so in the same universe. They're so kind of coherent between them, but the gameplay is worlds apart.
Yeah.
And I'd almost love to do a Tidal Blades evening where you do Banner Festival and then you go into that one. That would be great, and we could have beach food.
Yeah, there's a beach music in the background.
But yeah, that's my favourite game for August.
And well, that about wraps us up today here. I hope you've enjoyed a good selection of games that have been chosen. Let us know in the comment section below what was your favourite pick from all of the creators, and also what would your pick have been? Of course, check out all of the creators that have been involved. Links will be in the description box down below next to sort of their timestamps, so you can find them super easily. Go and share the love of board games, but also of content creation. Give them a like, subscribe, share over on their own channels or socials or whatever. And until next month, have a great month gaming.